Welcome back to the Lenses Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Weininger. In this episode, we will be joined by guest photographer Torsten Richertz. Roll intro music. Hey man, so how's it going?
Hey man, doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. So thanks for coming on this. I'm super happy to have you here and to be able to record a podcast with you.
Of course, man. Of course. Very glad to be here, and I hope you're listening, having a great time as well.
Yeah, well, thank you. So let me have you introduce yourself. Tell everybody your name and where you're from and how old you are and just all that information.
Yeah, sure. My name is Torsten. It's spelled Torsten. It's a Nordish name, so it's pretty hard to pronounce when you're from the UK or the US.
Torsten, how's that sound?
Yes,
Perfect.
that's right. So yes, that's my name. I'm 23 years old, and yeah, I'm a photographer and a filmmaker from Germany. So excuse my English if it sounds a bit weird to you. And yeah,
And
that's basically what I'm doing.
tell people what part of Germany you're from.
I'm from Western Germany, near Cologne, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that region. Pretty near France, actually, and yeah, it's
Awesome.
pretty nice here.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was a bit tricky trying to find like a good time to record because I usually work all day, like, from 9 to 5 p.m. And so it was either going to be, 5 a.m. for you or 5 a.m. for me.
Yeah, it
Which
was kind
luckily
of
today
tricky.
I had today off, so I was like, okay, let's start not quite so early. So this is working out. So let me have you. So you just kind of did your own introduction. Now let me have you introduce like how you got into photography and your background in photography and all that.
Well, I started photography, I think, about almost 5 years ago, and
Okay.
I started getting into photography because I always went out when I was a little bit younger. I went to parties in the summer sometimes, and I looked sometimes up into the night sky, and I really liked the stars that I was seeing, and I always wanted to capture them. So I just bought my DSLR, just Googled basically how to capture stars, and yeah, then I just tried to photograph some stars with my first camera back then. And
So that's like what you got into very first into
yes,
photography with star stuff, and
exactly.
that's like a bit more like I feel like star stuff is for sure like more tricky and stuff like that, especially like if you're just getting into
Yes,
photography, that
yes,
can
it
be
was really
confusing.
complicated at first. I didn't really know what I was doing basically. It was just stars, and then I just photographed landscapes, birds, animals, my cat at the time, people, everything basically.
Yeah,
Starting out, you're just trying to figure out what you like, what works for you. I think I think you can relate to that as well.
yeah, no, yeah, for sure. So what type of like photography would you say you focus on the most right now?
It was always like landscapes for me because I really loved like really nice sunsets, really cool landscapes, and capturing some moods that are unique, I think.
Yeah,
And yeah, I was always like really into landscapes, but also sometimes even cities. Loved taking photos of like street photography and cityscapes, and yeah, some of that as well. I wouldn't define myself as just a landscape photographer, but rather not only a landscape photographer, but also a photographer in general. I really love taking picture of everything, basically.
yeah. No, I'm kind of the same way. Like I for sure like landscapes is my favorite thing to do and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But like my daytime job, like I do commercial photography for a medical company, and so I do a bunch of that. And then I used to do a bunch of portraits and stuff like that, which I try not to do as much anymore just because I don't love doing it. But I used to do like real estate stuff. And so I've kind of done a little bit of everything, and I still kind of do a little bit of everything, but it's just more niche now. I feel like more just kind of the landscapes and then my work side of stuff. So like, do you have like a specific type of landscapes you like doing, or you said you like doing like night sky stuff? Is that like what you try and stick with, or do you just kind of do anything and everything?
I'm basically just trying to do what feels right for me.
Yeah,
So if it's like night sky, then it's night sky. If it's landscape, or if it's seascape, or if it's like mountains or minimalistic style, I just try to do what inspires me at the moment. If I'm not inspired by like these typical mountainscapes, for example, which are very popular at the moment, then, for example, I don't like to capture that if I'm not interested and I'm not inspired by it,
yeah.
basically.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
that's perfect. And actually, tell me about like some of the locations that are nearby you and stuff like that. Like, do you travel much, or do you just do more local stuff, or what?
I didn't travel that much as I would have liked the last 2 years. I think we all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no one has. So
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I love traveling, of course. I've always been a big fan here in Europe of the Alps, the Dolomites especially. They are incredible.
I've heard,
Um,
yeah, really good things about going there, and I'd love to go there someday. It's just, a bit
I
more difficult.
I can totally recommend it. It's beautiful, and the people there are also pretty nice.
So,
And
how far is that from where you live?
it's about like, I don't know how much it is in miles, but it's 800 kilometers,
Okay, like, so how long does it take you to get there? About.
about 10 hours.
Okay, so it's a
Driving
decent
slowly. Here
drive.
in Germany, you can drive really fast on the street, but I wouldn't recommend that. It's not that safe. Some
Yeah,
people like to do that, but I'm not that kind of guy.
yeah, yeah. From like where I'm at, if I want to go to like Yosemite National Park or some of those national parks in like California, it's about like 10, 11 hours too. So similar, similar driving distance.
You live in Utah, right?
Yeah, kind of Salt Lake City, so
Ah,
northern Utah.
I see, I see. That's interesting. It's also,
But
but it's also pretty nice there too.
yeah, there's tons of stuff actually here. There's like, that's kind of the nice thing is I used to live just like 5 minutes away from the mountains. I would like go running in the morning, and I'd go run up the canyon and then like run back down. Now I live in the city, so it's maybe 15 minutes away from the mountains, but still pretty close. And then you have like all the national parks kind of in southern Utah and stuff like that, which are like 3 or 4 hours away, but still not too far though.
What I really love about the States, for example, is that it's so diverse. Right here in Germany, the landscape is pretty not boring, but it all looks the same basically. Except when you're going south towards the Alps, then it's getting a bit more different. But we don't have like these diverse landscapes. We don't have deserts, or we don't have like these really really vast landscapes like you guys have, which always makes me kind of a little bit jealous, but in a
Well,
good
come
way.
come down here. You need to do a trip down here, and I'll do a trip up there or
For
wherever.
sure, for sure.
But yeah, and I think one thing too is like you always get like used to where you're living at and stuff too, and so maybe you think it's like not as special
Hmm.
as it
That's true.
really is. And that's like something I've actually like been working on. Is like not getting bored of like what's around me, and I think that's helps me a lot, like trying to capture more like intimate landscapes and stuff like that, is being able to, you know, go up in the same mountains I've gone my entire life and still find interesting things. But sometimes doing the big, vast landscapes and stuff like that can be kind of hard in the locations that you've been, 1,000 times or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You can always find something beautiful where you live.
Yeah.
If something doesn't work, like a wide angle shot, for example, most likely going a bit more minimalistic, finding these intimate details can help you spark your creativity a bit. So you need to start thinking about what are you going to capture, because if you have seen the same landscape over and over again, it can get like really repetitive and yeah, boring, but you need to keep yourself creatively engaged. You know what I mean?
That's a fun thing about photography is there's always a different way you can capture the scene or whatever. You just have to not get bored of it, I guess. But
True, 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 true.
so you were kind of talking about this earlier, that like you capture what inspires you and stuff like that. Well, let's hear more about that. Like, what are more things that inspire you in photography to keep you going and to keep you shooting, and then also like what motivates you?
You mean in
Sorry, that's
general?
a tricky question.
Yeah, you mean in general or just
It
photography wise?
just yeah, I think we maybe more artistically, I guess you
All
could
right,
say.
all right.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be just in photography, but just like what drives you to keep on creating content and stuff like that, and to
Right, all right. Got you,
keep you
got you.
going.
I think for me, it's like lately it's been movies actually, documentaries. I really love watching them because they are so good for real
Yeah,
sometimes, and also music a lot. I really love to listen to like some lo-fi beats that are pretty chill, but also a little bit dreamy when
yeah.
editing photos or trying to find inspiration. Also, sometimes Adobe Behance can be a bit of a good tool to find some
I
inspiration.
I need to check on there more because I like Instagram because you can find a lot of stuff, but I also hate Instagram with all my heart and soul.
It's
And
the
so
same
it's
for
just
me.
yeah, I just maybe I'll have to check Behance. Where I have an account, I don't update it at all, but
It's
maybe
a
it's a
bit
bit more.
more like towards aimed towards commercial style, but it's not too much towards the commercial side. If you're like really interested in really good commercial photography, then you can find a lot of stuff there. But if you just want to see like the most amazing places, then I think Instagram is a safe option. But if you want to see a bit more artistic, even landscape photography, then Behance is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, I need to check that out then because Instagram. I know I've just been like getting so sick of like the same people editing the same style, same photos and stuff like that. And I feel like sometimes even I like get stuck in the trap and I'm like editing in some way. And like the last few weeks, I've like really had like an internal like reflection on myself. I'm like, what am I doing? Like I need to edit my photos like the way I like that makes me happy. Like I not whatever gets me like likes or anything like that, or the most comments or the most people. It just
Yeah,
yeah,
true, true. But it's easy to fall into the trap.
it
It's
truly
super easy.
is.
We all been there, and I think it's okay if we just accept it and just move on. I think we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves, even if we just post a picture from a famous location which has been captured over and over again. If you yourself like it, I think it's totally fine to post a
Yeah,
picture.
and I think that's honestly like that's like a big debate. Like, is it creative taking pictures at famous locations and stuff like that? And I think it's completely fine because sometimes those really famous locations can be a lot of fun and stuff like that. But I think again, what is the more of a trap is like how you're capturing it and stuff like that, and how you're spending your time in Photoshop and stuff like that. And I don't know, so many people are doing like the crazy like saturation and like the like Mark Adamus stuff. And like I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
I
I know
I
what I
like to
mean.
take like a very like painterly look at or like take on my photos, but I don't. So it's not necessarily like true to life, but I just try not to have it just like insane. Like I was talking to this photographer on Instagram, and his stuff is just like it's not just like oversaturated like normal, but it's like crazy oversaturated. And he has like a ton of like followers and stuff like that too. And like he was like talking about the same thing about like people not being real and stuff like that and their editing and stuff like that. I'm like, man, like I love your stuff. Like you have great compositions and everything like that. I'm like, you need to chill on the color though. Like it's like that's not like
I see.
authentic at all. And he's like, well, it's boring to have dull colors. I'm like, not really at all. I was like, maybe you won't maybe they don't pop out as much on Instagram, but just because you have dull colors doesn't make it boring. And I like what you said, like how movies inspire you and stuff like that. Because oftentimes I like watching like certain movies or whatever, and then kind of seeing the color and the lighting they use in that, and then you can kind of transfer that over into photography. But I did want to ask you, what are some of those documentaries that you would recommend, and some of the music for our listeners that they can
Oh,
check out?
well, well, the music, I don't know the artist's name, but I'm just going onto Spotify and just searching for some like chill playlists or something like that. They curate it for you, so you don't have to create your
Yeah,
own playlists, and they
yeah,
update
that's
it
nice.
weekly. And yeah, I don't know how the playlist exactly is called, but if you just search chill and mood or something like that in Spotify, then I think you'll find the kind of genre I'm talking about. But documentaries, recently I saw 14 Peaks. I don't know if you heard of this
That was
documentary.
really good.
That
Yeah.
was really good. Yes, I love that. And also, like, I also really loved the documentary that came out this year about. It was like from a freelance videographer in the UK about fish.
Hmm.
I don't know what it's called again.
Just
Ah,
sit.
I know. Seaspiracy.
Huh. I've never heard of that one. I'll like link it
Yeah,
in the
it's
podcast
really
notes.
really eye opening and also sad and beautiful at the same time, because it's about like how the people are fishing all the fish out of the sea and the impact it has on the environment and also on our health. And it's really good research. And yeah, I can totally recommend it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to check that out. Same with the
But
listeners.
but I
Go check it
agree.
out.
If you watch a lot of movies or documentaries and you pay attention how they filmed the piece, you often get a sense of why lighting works in specific situations and when it doesn't work in specific situations. And I really love when they play with natural light. That's really awesome. I think
Yeah,
it's more easy to create like an artificial scene inside a house or something like that in a scene, but it's much more difficult to create a really good scene, very well lit, in a movie just being outside, you know.
yeah. No,
But I
yeah,
think that's beautiful if you get it right.
I totally agree. Especially with like landscape photography, I think that's like the important thing too. Is like how you capture the existing light you have and stuff like that. And a lot of people will like take it very just like transparent of like how you see it is how you can capture it. But like if you move around to like different angles, and maybe you have to like drive or hike a little to different spots and stuff too, but like the light will like interact with the scene in a very like different way and stuff like that too. And so you can for sure still capture it in a different way if you are seeking that.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, I took so back when I was taking college classes, I took a couple lighting classes for because I graduated in a degree with photography. And lighting classes, that's why I remember like after them, I just remember like looking around every single movie I saw and just like looking around. I was just like noticing the lighting way more. I was like, holy crap, like what has this class done to me? But it was just like super interesting. And now like I can still see the same thing, just like watching like documentaries or movies and like how the light is. I'm like, it's truly inspiring for me, and it can help your work like as how am I what am I saying? It can help just advance your own work. I think if you let it, you can like apply what you're seeing to your own photography a lot, and I think that can help you grow as a photographer too. I feel like you can learn a million things in Photoshop and stuff like that, but like if you truly know how to light a scene or whatever, or how to capture that light, then that will probably play the biggest impact on your pictures.
Exactly, exactly. If your capture inside the camera isn't that good, it won't work in the post processing. I think it's so hard to create a good image out of a bad raw file, but it's super easy to create a good image out of a great raw file.
Yeah, I took a photography class in high school, or a few photography classes, and my teacher always said, "You can't polish a turd." As in, if you take a crappy photo, it's gonna stay crappy. And
That's true.
that's actually the thing now is with like Photoshop is I think sometimes there are crappy photos that people turn actually like pretty decent and stuff too, but like still you need to start out with something like you need to have some quality of light and have a good composition and stuff like that too, and then maybe you can pull more out. So you still have to have something, but if you just have a bad photo, it's always going to be a bad photo.
Exactly, exactly.
Kind of on that, let's talk about like your editing style a little bit. You'll do like a lot on your like Instagram stories of like before and afters, and I always like really enjoy watching them and stuff like that.
Thank
And
you.
like, and
Thank you.
I really like your editing style and stuff like that too. So kind of, I don't think you need to go into specifics of how you edit, but just like maybe tell us a little bit about it and the style you like doing.
It depends from picture to picture. I think it's more of like analyzing the photo before making a decision on how I'm going to push it. If I'm going for a colder tone, or if I'm going for a warmer tone, if I'm trying to make it a little bit more dreamy, bit more minimalistic, artistic, whatever. And sometimes I even push the colors too hard, like we all have been there.
Yeah, I think we all do. Well, what I really like is I'll see you like so you'll change like the colors sometimes of a scene, like maybe change if it's like really green grass, you'll change it so it's a little bit more like desaturated or yellow or something like
Hmm.
that. But then like you'll match the whole tone of the picture or of the whole photo to it, and I don't know, I think that it looks really nice and it turns out really well.
Thank
And I
you.
don't think
Thank you.
it's not like you're going crazy on it at the same time either. As it's like you're more of just like adding a warmer, like what you're saying, just more of a warmer tone to the whole photo. And it's not like you're turning, or at least from what I've seen, it's not like you have red flowers that you're turning purple or something like that. Like
No, no, no,
it's
no, no.
not that
I,
crazy.
I did that a couple of times earlier when I was starting out, but not anymore. I try to keep it not realistic, but I don't try to like push a certain color way too far or manipulate like the sky or replace the sky even. I did that earlier, but not anymore. I like the picture how it is, and I want to match just the tonality. Like I really don't like yellows in my photos. I don't know why. I always try to pull them more towards the orange side, not towards the
Yeah,
green
that's what
side.
it was. It was more orange. That one photo
Yeah,
I was thinking of. It's like a big field. I don't know if you know the one I'm talking about,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but
I
it's
think I
like
know.
greener, and then it's more like to an orange or whatever.
Yeah, and I also don't really like these green tones. Only if they're like really muted and like in a forest scene or something like that. Green tones work for me. But I try to I always shift the color in Lightroom and then a little bit in Photoshop. I mostly do 90% of the work in Lightroom just with radial filters,
Okay.
gradient filters, and then I go into Photoshop, do just a little touch and burning, a little tone curve, and that's basically it. I
Yeah.
export it and it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's when you put it like that, it doesn't seem like it's that much work. Like you're not going that crazy into
It
it.
takes me maximum an hour to edit a photo.
Yeah, that's usually how I'm about. Usually an hour at max, depending on the photo. But
True, true.
okay, awesome. And then so you said you use Photoshop and Lightroom. Do you use any other editing software?
I used to use like Luminar for their, I think it's like some kind of Orton effect they had.
Oh yeah,
I really like that, but I don't anymore. So now it's just Lightroom and Photoshop or Camera Raw and Photoshop,
yeah,
whatever works.
yeah. I just what is it? I just downloaded. Have you heard of like the Topaz Labs, like the
Yeah,
D
I heard of
Noise
it.
or whatever? I just downloaded that, and so I haven't even. I've hardly even used it at all. But I have the A7R4, and so if I'm like shooting at over 1,000 ISO, it's just the noise is ridiculous. So
With
I
the
was like, well,
61 megapixel, yeah, I can
yeah. So it
imagine.
was like on sale or whatever. I was like, well, I better spend $50 on this rather than spending it
I
on a
see.
new camera or
I see.
whatever.
I see.
But yeah, actually, tell me what gear do you use?
Oh well, I really don't like to talk about gear that much because I think it doesn't matter at all what you're
We
shooting with.
actually, if you haven't listened to it, we have a podcast episode about that of whether
Ah,
gear actually matters or not.
I definitely need to check that out afterwards. So
But yeah, but we talk about that whether it really doesn't matter, and the conclusion is that it doesn't really matter, but it can help you get the job done and improve your photography, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter, and it's not going to make you a better photographer.
true, true. That's the point. It's not gonna make you a better photographer, but sometimes it's nice to have that fast shutter when you're like on a client shoot, or it
Yeah,
matters if you have like 10-bit color when you're doing video work or something like that.
yeah,
Um, but overall, like it doesn't make you a better artist, photographer, filmmaker, whatsoever.
yeah,
But back to your question, I can happily answer that.
yeah. Let's see. Let's hear what you have.
99% of the time I'm shooting just with the A7 III,
Okay.
just the base model, and I think it works fine. I think the colors are good enough for me. I think
Yeah,
the
that's my work camera that I have at
yeah,
work. Is they're trying to see what camera we should get, and I told them to get the A7 III, and so I've liked it a lot.
totally recommend that for photography work. It's awesome. It's very durable, and yeah, I can totally recommend it. And I also have as a backup camera the A7R2,
Okay.
and I'm not really using it at all. Basically, just if I'm doing a time lapse or like doing some telephoto photography at 400 millimeters, and I want to crop in afterwards a little bit more, then I'm
Yeah,
using this camera because of the higher megapixel count. But yeah,
and
that
that's
that's
actually
all it
my
borders.
big reason of having the A7R4 is so I have like my 100 to 400, and I just love being able to like crop way in because I'm not going to carry a bigger lens than the 100 to 400. That lens
Yeah,
is big
nah,
enough.
no way.
So I love being like, if I want, I can crop like way into the photo, and that way I have like a way bigger zoom range. That's honestly my biggest reason for having this camera's and for the resolution, because I don't ever print that big. You know, maybe I'll do a 20 by 30 once every couple of years or something like that, but
Yeah,
nothing.
I
Yeah,
think that works. That works with 24 megapixels. It works for
yeah,
40 megapixels.
yeah,
I think you don't really see the difference so much. And I
yeah.
also
Unless you're doing
think
like a billboard, but who's
yeah,
doing
exactly.
that?
Exactly. But I think it challenges you a little bit as well. So you don't have the wiggle room to crop in that much. So
Yeah,
you are being forced to work harder and not be that lazy. Like
yeah.
when you are shooting with a lower megapixel camera.
No, I agree, and you get that better low light too, which I
Yeah.
honestly think is more important.
For astrophotography, the A7 III is like really good.
Yeah, I'd love to have like a second body or something, just because my camera's not great with Astro, but I just haven't wanted to spend the money on one yet. But yeah, the A7 III, that's what I know. A ton of people use that for Astro, and it's a great all around camera.
True, true. As far as lenses go, I have like the 100 to 400 G Master, I think, from Sony, and I have
Okay,
the 1635 2.8,
okay.
and I have a 85 1.4 from Sigma, just for like portrait stuff and commercial
How
photography.
do you like that lens?
It's awesome. Gotta say, I really like to work with that focal length as well, and I cannot wait to try that out for street photography in the near future. I think that
Yeah,
would be fine. That
yeah.
would be
I've heard
really
everyone
fun.
say they love that. I have just the cheaper Sony 85 millimeter 1.8.
I have a good friend of mine who owns that lens, and he thinks that you don't really need that much more. So
Yeah, and I like it. I just don't do as many portraits now and stuff like that, so I don't use it a ton. But that was my reason. It was just like a really cheap lens, and so I was like, hey, I'll get this for now, and if I want to upgrade in the future, then I can. And I just haven't. But I've I've heard tons of people say that Sigma is an excellent lens, though.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. The build quality is awesome. That's what I really like about this lens because I think you can pull it out in the rain and do some photography, but it won't really matter that much.
Yeah, yeah, no,
And
that's nice for sure. The 85 Sony is for sure. It's plastic, so it's
yeah,
I don't know if I'd take it out in the rain,
yeah,
um, but
but yeah, I think it will work in 99% of the times. So I think the
yeah,
1.4 from Sigma is just a bit overkill, especially for what I do. But yeah,
yeah. Well, if
it
you need the
works.
extra
It's
resolution,
fine.
and I really like Sigma's colors too. I think they have really
Mm,
nice colors on their lenses.
that's good.
Um, so Sony has a bunch of those cheaper lenses too. I also have like their 28 millimeter f2, and then they have like their 35 1.8, and a few of those kind of like cheaper lenses. And from what I've seen, is they're all like super sharp and stuff like that, but their color is just like very okay. Like it's just not like
Okay.
not like the G Masters for sure have like a nice color to them, and same with like the Sigmas and stuff like that. And then the color on the generic Sony ones are just pretty just normal. Like there's nothing special about it, and so that's kind of one downgrade. And then so you also do drone stuff, right?
Yes, I have a Mavic. I think a Mavic Air 2S. I think it's called.
Oh, so
It
you
has
just
like the
got the
one.
new one?
Yeah, yeah, the one that came out this year, I think.
Yeah,
And
that
not
one's
not the
pretty
Mavic
awesome.
3, but the Air 2S. I think it has a 1 inch sensor, and I think it works totally fine. So you
Yeah,
don't
no,
need
I
like you don't need like 45 megapixel for drone photography. I
no,
think uh, I've taken some great photos with it, and it's just like with your camera. You still need good lighting and good composition to pull off a great photo. So the sensor size doesn't really matter that much. You can even take good photos with your phone. Well,
yeah. So do
basically,
you notice when you take like this is what I've always been curious about. I've been like going back and forth about getting a drone for the last like 4 years, I swear, and they just keep out coming out with new ones. I'm like, okay, I'll wait for the next one, and
I
I
see.
haven't done it, and I think
See.
we talked about this too. I've been just like lazy about getting the you have to like get a license or whatever to do that, and I don't think it's that hard, but it's just like still a test you have to study for, and then you have to pay the fee, and so I've just been
Yeah.
lazy about that. But my question is, do you notice like the quality difference between the your Mavic and then your Sony A7 III?
Oh well, definitely. I think if you push the ISO higher than 400 on the Mavic, it's it's gonna
Yeah.
look like it doesn't really look good. So if
Well,
you wanna stick under 400 with the ISO,
and
um,
what about if you're just doing low ISO photos about that? Like, does the image like still hold up pretty good?
yeah, yeah, of course you can like if you put it side by side, if you have a great lighting situation and you put them side by side, take the same photo with approximately the same focal length. I think it's approximately 24 millimeter equivalent to full frame.
Okay.
So yeah, if you take the same photo, I don't think you can spot the difference unless you're like on a
You
30-inch
zooming way
monitor
in or
and zooming
whatever.
in all the
Yeah.
way.
What about have you printed from your Mavic at all?
Not yet. I just got it this September, so
Oh, okay, so
maybe
you
next
haven't.
year. I'm
Yeah,
really
you'll
hoping.
have to let me know. That's why I'm curious about
Definitely, for sure.
to see like how it holds up in prints and stuff like that too. But yeah, again, that seems like a pretty cool drone. I'm excited to see your work coming from it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I'm definitely gonna let you know how the drone will perform when printing a photo.
Yeah, and that's a nice thing about the Mavic Air line too, is they're like so small
Yeah,
and
true.
stuff like that too. You can just like keep it in your backpack, and I don't think they're that heavy either. So it's like you just keep it in your backpack and you just keep it there, and that like opens you up to like such a wider range of photography and stuff like that too. Yeah, it's just another tool, to help you expand your photography.
Exactly, but I think with drones, it's getting more and more difficult to find areas to fly because
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
because some people are just like stupid enough to fly in restricted zones, and they gonna make the rules more strict because of them. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a bad vicious cycle. But I really hope that they will ease some of those restrictions a little bit. And yeah, but it's also a good thing that you are not allowed to fly in national parks, for example, because you
Yeah.
don't want to interrupt like the natural habitat of some animals, some birds, or something like that, which will then create a chain reaction, which you don't want in the natural world.
Yeah, and that's how I kind of think of it too. Is it's like if I'm at like some of these like nature places, I don't necessarily want like I feel like I would get bothered if someone was just flying a drone
Yeah,
like right
true, true.
above me. Like I would get like I probably would get pretty annoyed. Like especially if I'm just like trying to take my normal photos or whatever like that. But then there's like a lot of situations where you're the only person at that location and stuff like that too. And if you fly a drone, you're not going to be harming anything. So I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. I think unless there's like a sign that you are not allowed to fly there, or it's a national park, because if you fly in a national park, I think you really have to pay a pretty hard fee, like to a pretty hard. You have to pay a price because it's illegal to fly there,
Yeah.
and yeah, I wouldn't do that just for the photo. Like I think it's not worth it just for the animals. It's pretty bad for them that are living there, and also for like the people that are enjoying nature. I think
Yeah.
it can be annoying, like you said before, if you just fly above their heads and they just want to enjoy nature, and
Yeah,
these
for
things are
sure.
loud. Like
Yeah. I know, like I'll like when I'm like at places I'll like hear something, I'm like, what the heck is that? And I look up and someone's flying a drone or I just
I
see the
see,
drone, I'm like, I don't even see the person, where are they?
I see.
But yeah, but again, you can get some awesome stuff out of them. So tell me one of your favorite photography memories you have.
My favorite memory. Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I think a couple of years ago, when I went to like the Dolomites, I think it was last year. I'm not sure, but I think it was last year. I went there in the night and I slept in the car, and I took some Milky Way photos of, of the stars, and yeah, with the landscape combined, it was like really cool. And
Yeah.
but it was really cold. That it was quite challenging because it was like minus 10 degrees or something like that
Oh
Celsius,
geez.
not Fahrenheit. And yeah, it was freezing cold. I had to get into the car, get out, get into the car, get out, just to warm myself a couple now and then,
Yeah.
because it was so cold. But the images and the night sky and not and the night sky, I'm sorry, was just
No, you're
super
good.
super clean. And yeah, there was no light pollution whatsoever. The Milky Way, you can see it with your visible eye, which was also with your naked eye, and it was really cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I think some of those experiences, even though they suck at the time, you're like, it's
True.
freezing, it's cold, like I'm not having fun, I can't feel my fingers or whatever, like I'm
Yeah,
hungry, tired. And then maybe at the time it's a real big pain in the butt, but then you get some awesome images out of it, and then you think back to the experience, you're like, oh yeah, it did suck, but that made it the experience. That if it was warm and and super easy to get the photos, then maybe it wouldn't have been as special, or the photos wouldn't have been as memorable.
yeah, exactly, 100%. I think the most important photos, or like the best photos you take, are the hardest to take. You know,
Yeah,
like it was so hard to take these photos that night. So, at least for me, but that made them even more valuable to me. I think.
yeah,
I think it it matters if you have to work for your photos. Like, I think it gives you something intangible, but something more memorable. Even though it may suck, like you say, in the moment, but if you're going to walk away with something great, then it was definitely worth it.
Yeah. No, yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. I think there'll be times where I take a photo or whatever, where it's maybe just up the mountains right next to me and stuff like that, and I get a a good photo or what I think is a really good photo, but it's not that like hard of a photo to take. And that's when I look back at my photos and I look at that. I don't remember taking the photos. I just be like, oh, it's a good photo. But then there's the pictures that have the story behind it. Like the time I fell in a river with a bunch of snow, or the time I had to hike 12 miles to get a picture or whatever. So, whatever the story is, and those are the photos I remember. Even if they're not the best photos, those to me are my favorite photos just because they have the experience with it. And I think that's really important in landscape photography and just any photography really, but especially landscape is having the experience with it. If it's always super easy to get your photos, yeah, maybe you'll still have pretty photos, but they're just not as memorable, and it might be hard to keep yourself motivated to keep on creating if they're not that special to you.
Totally agreed. And it's also like the experience, especially in landscape photography, of nature. When you are outside nature, experiencing nature, and seeing some of the most amazing landscapes, I think that makes the experience even more
Yeah,
worth it. And
no, for
that
sure.
that makes like these long hikes, these long nights, or even these sometimes really hard experiences, that makes the photos even more valuable than if you are like going outside your house and doing a little bit of street photography. If you're living in a big city, for example, it's much more easy to do that than to go out into the landscape, into the nature, and take
Yeah.
photos there.
No, yeah. Well, I would say the opposite. I hate going into the city. I'm like, oh man, there's too many people. What do I do? But I think it depends on your location and stuff like that
Of
too.
course.
If it's most people don't have the mountains, right behind their house that they can go to. Um, so it just depends on what you're used to. But yeah, go out and shoot people. Make memories. Um, so for my next two questions, what's a piece of advice you would give to just other photographers, and then also a piece of advice you would give to new photographers that are just starting out?
For other photographers, I would say don't listen to others, listen to yourself. Do what feels right to you. Do what you wanna do. If you're like shooting portraits, shoot portraits. If you wanna like shoot landscapes, shoot landscapes. If you wanna shoot astro, shoot astro. Just do what you love to do. And for beginners, it would be like try everything out. You don't know what you're gonna like if you haven't tried it.
Yeah,
That's my advice for them.
yeah. I think those are both perfect pieces of advice. I think it's so important just to do what you love to do, and then yeah, to as a beginner just to try things out. I think in one of our episodes we talked about that a little bit, but it's just sometimes you don't know if you're gonna like something. Like I always thought I would hate anything but landscape photography, and then I started trying to do a lot of these other types of photography, and I'm like, oh, maybe I don't like it as much as landscapes, but I still like it though. Like it's still enjoyable, and I still can get some fun and creative images out of it. So you never know.
Yeah, and also I think if you're starting out, you shouldn't consume any social media at all.
Oh my, delete Instagram. I think
Yeah,
we would
for
all
real.
be better people. Well, and again, that's why I have like such a love hate relationship with Instagram. Is first of all, I think it's just straight from the devil, and it can mess with you emotionally and mess with your mental health, and it can stunt your growth as a photographer and set you down paths that you shouldn't be down. But at the same time, like I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for Instagram and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And so that's like the tough thing is, you never you can meet a lot of cool people and see a lot of cool people's art and stuff like that from Instagram. But then you can meet a lot of not so cool people as well and see a lot of unauthentic art and photography and, you know, from Instagram that's, just people trying to get likes and stuff like that. And so, again, it's a win lose situation having social media. But I agree though, like if you're starting out, look, do what you want to do, and if you want to get like some inspiration, go maybe check out Behance or something like that. That might not be so damaging.
Well, I think it's also helpful to to keep some context, because social media, like you said, isn't it's a love-hate relationship. It has also some really good sides. I've met a couple of really, really good friends now over social media, which I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yeah,
But I'm consuming for myself way too much social media, which is taking a toll on my mental health. And
yeah,
like, you really have to find balance, I think, and you need to really use it mindfully. It can be like a really good business tool, for example, or a really good tool to meet other people, but maybe not so much for doing self-reflection or trying to grow as a person or a photographer,
yeah,
because that can be toxic really quick. So I think you need to know when are you going to use social media for what purpose.
yeah. Have you seen um, the Netflix
Yes,
documentary?
the social
What's it
dilemma.
called? Yeah, the Social
Yes,
Dilemma.
yes.
That, like, I watched that and I like deleted social media for like a month, or I can't remember how long afterwards, or I just deleted the apps, and I was like scarred after watching that. And right now, I have social media, but what I've done is I just turn off all notifications except for DM. So if like someone's
Mm.
messaging me or something like that, then I'll keep that. But all others, if someone likes my photos or comments on my photos or whatever and stuff like that, I've just, I'll see those when I see them, but I've just turned off all the notifications. And there's literally like 100 notification buttons you have to turn off on Instagram.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
it like, that's what I recommend doing at least, and that makes it so. I'm sure you'll still be opening up Instagram and stuff like that, but it makes it so at least you're not getting notifications and checking it, every 2 minutes or whatever. But
Yeah, true. I think we all fell into that rabbit hole at least once in our lifetime. So,
yeah,
so yeah,
well, I
but
think a lot of
that's
us
not.
are still there. So
Yeah, I think like I'm doing sometime. Although I'm doing what it's called dedicated time. I think I'm trying to dedicate time, even every evening and every morning, like 30 minutes, where I can consume social media as much as I like to, and I'm reading all my comments and reading all my DMs. But apart from these times in the morning or in the evening, I think it's better to turn off social media, because it can really disturb your work, your flow, your relationships, or even your daily experience. If you're like eating lunch or eating dinner and you're all on your phone, and then this can be like really, really toxic. You're always
yeah,
going to associate eating food with social media, which
yeah,
is kind
I
of the
complete
bad thing.
I completely agree. It's like, imagine if you spent the time you spent on social media like reading a book, or like,
True,
or even like listening to photography tutorials or something like that. Like, you would learn so much, and so spend
definitely.
it somewhere else. Like, I'll literally be watching like the Instagram reels or whatever, which are pretty much just like the TikToks and stuff like that, and I will watch those for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I think I am a worse person after watching that. Like, I
Yeah,
didn't think I could get any dumber, and yet here I am after watching these, and
yeah. I think
somehow
it's
I'm
really,
there.
really important to audit our time and to dedicate time towards social media, but also towards just normal things. Like, the
Yeah,
real life is still happening outside of social media. Like,
yeah.
it,
That's like,
you won't disappear if you turn off social media for a day or two.
yeah, I know. It's like with social media, I had an English class in college that I wrote my like final paper on social media, and that was like my whole thing is like, social media, the whole purpose is to connect with other people. And yeah, like I think it does do that, but you're spending so much time worrying about connecting with people that aren't actually around you in your life, and trying to get likes and stuff like that. That by doing that, you're disconnecting from the people around you, your friends and family that actually matter, or, your
True.
people at work and stuff like that. And
True.
but like I remember like even like eating with my family or whatever, and I would like pick up my phone, and then I'd be like thinking, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, or if like someone's talking to me and I'm on my phone or something like that, I'm like, how rude is that? Like, I just like, after like thinking like that, and after watching the Social Dilemma, I'm like, am I that bad of a person? And I don't know. It's just, social media is the worst, but it
Yeah.
can be good. Like what you said, we just, make sure you're, like what you said, auditing your time, not spending your whole day on it. Maybe set aside, a couple times a day where you can be on social media, and then apart from that, just, leave it aside.
Exactly. Be mindful with it.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Awesome. So I also want to ask you, is there any other photographers that you think would be good to have on the podcast?
On the podcast. Oh damn. Of course there are quite a few, I think.
Or
Um,
what are a few recommendations that you might give of maybe some people you know?
when it comes to landscapes, I think you know Michael Chainblum. He's from California, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his work is like incredible in my opinion. And another photographer who's from Germany, who's also really a really good landscape photographer, is called Kai Hornung,
Okay.
and his work is also incredible. And if you're like into there are so many great photographers.
There truly are.
Like I can name so much more. I really think it depends on what photographers you like to have on here. Like if you're really into landscapes, I think then these two are like really worth considering.
Yeah.
If
Awesome.
they have the time to do it. Um, like yeah, I'm sorry, I really can't.
No, no, that's good. No,
I really don't have any more names for you right now,
no, that's perfect. Yeah,
but I can definitely DM you a few more afterwards.
yeah. No,
Um,
I was just curious. Maybe that's perfect. Just a couple people that we could possibly have in the future, and then maybe a couple people. Those are a couple people also that listeners can search up and see their photography too. Okay. Well, do you have any closing remarks? Anything you want to say to anyone?
anything I want to say to anyone? Yeah, basically, I wish you Happy New Year and all the best for 2020. And I hope that this podcast would have given you anything. If you can take anything away from this podcast, that would be nice. And I'm hoping you enjoyed the episode, and I wish you all a nice day.
Okay. Thank you so much, Torsten. This is super fun.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure meeting you, a pleasure seeing you for the first time.
Yeah, great to
You seem like a
finally actually
really
talk to you in
kind
real
person.
life.
Kind person. Anytime soon.
Yeah, hopefully one of these days we'll be able to actually meet up and take some
Of
pictures
course,
together. We'll have to plan a crazy trip, but it'd be awesome to do that though.
I'm all for it.
Okay, thank you so much. See you later, man.
All right, see ya, man. Bye.
Hey everyone, right before I let you all go, I just wanted to give you all Torsten's info and how and where you can contact him. So on Instagram, his profile is just visuals.of.tr, or you can just search his name, Torsten Richertz. And then he also has a website, which is just his name, torstenrichertz.com, TorstenRichertz.com. And then his YouTube channel is his name as well. I highly suggest you go and check him out. He has some great content. Okay, have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye-bye.